Hey everyone, welcome back to the Banter and Binges podcast.
I'm Gabby.
And I'm Quase. And we are continuing our journey for Once Upon a Time by reviewing episodes 5 and 6.
This will contain spoilers.
And before we begin...
You have a retraction to make because I realized something at 2 a.m.
Okay. Why don't you explain what you realized?
Okay, so last week we were debating about Cinderella, and Quase said, well, Cinderella made her dress, and he is wrong. I went with it because I didn't remember. I remembered at 2 a.m. I woke up out of a dream and was like, oh, wait a minute. Who made the dress?
The mice.
Which means Cinderella didn't make her dress. Cinderella did nothing.
I will retract. I will retract. Just to have peace.
Just to have peace.
But the point of the matter is that for those of you who were with us last week, Cinderella tried. She tried to get to the ball. She made an effort. Lady Tremaine, again, was awful. Her stepsisters were awful.
I agree.
They locked her in the house.
Mm-hmm.
What's your beef? Come on, just spit it out. What's your
because
beef with
you
Cinderella?
said because you said she made her dress, and she did not make her dress. The mice made her dress. She just didn't. She didn't have a lot of action moving her story forward, and it bothers me.
Okay. I still think you have some deep-seated issues with Cinderella that you need counseling for.
And Sleeping Beauty.
And Sleeping Beauty.
I need to dig into this with my therapist.
Yes, absolutely. Please.
Okay, so now that we have that retraction made, we can move on to episode 5.
All right. We're at season 1, episode 5. The title is That Still Small Voice. It premiered November 27th, 2011 with 10.69 million viewers. The show was written by Jane Espenson and directed by Paul Edwards.
And this episode centers around Archie, Jiminy Cricket. We get a lot of his backstory. So it opens up at a fair, at a fair. And we see a young redheaded boy. He's stealing coins out of the purses and bags while the patrons are watching a puppet show. Then it cuts to him giving the coins to his parents, and he pulls a cricket like in a cage, a little cage, almost like Mulan, the lucky cricket in Mulan.
Yeah.
He pulls that out of the bag, and he comments that he wishes that he loves crickets because they're free to do whatever they want, and he wants to be free to be someone else. They shut him down automatically and say, you are who you are, and there's no changing it. And they reveal that this little boy is Jiminy Cricket. We go to Storybrooke, and Henry is in therapy with Archie, of course. And he tells Archie that he knows he's Jiminy because he's a conscience. Archie asks Henry if all the crickets in Storybrooke used to be people. And Henry informs him that there are no crickets in Storybrooke. He just never noticed. Archie asks him why he thinks it's so important that his fairy tale theory is real. And Henry's like, well, I don't know. It just is. Archie tells him, keep thinking about it because I think something's buried there. Then we go to the police station, the sheriff's office, and Emma is balking at wearing the uniform. Graham asks her to at least wear the badge. She puts on the badge, and an earthquake erupts. They rush to the scene of the old mines, which have collapsed. Regina tells Emma she can leave because it's official city business. Emma tells her she's a deputy now. Regina is mad.
Pissed off.
She is mad. And she looks at Graham and glares at him. And she's like, well, I guess the mayor's always the last to know. And Graham's just like, it was in my budget. Then she announces to the residents that they will collapse the tunnels and pave them. Henry suspects that there's something hiding down there, and he calls Archie and Emma over and tells them there's something down there, and it needs all of our Operation Cobra. And Archie's like, oh, I didn't know I was part of Operation Cobra. And Henry's like, well, of course you are. You know everything. He says that Emma's changing things and weakening the curse, and he asks Emma if she did anything different today. And her hand kind of goes over her badge, like she's putting it together. Regina breaks up the conference and tells Henry to wait in the car, and then tells Archie that they need a new treatment plan, and he has forgotten that he works for her. He's an employee, and she can fire him. This is her town. He will lose his office. He will lose his house. She will destroy him and everything he has if he doesn't take the delusion out of Henry's head and crush it. Then we go back to the Enchanted Forest. Jimmy, who's now an adult, easily in his late 30s, begs his parents not to steal in this town. He's like, we make enough off the ticket sales. We don't need to steal. They shut him down again, saying, stealing's part of the economy. And, they steal from people steal from other people, and he kind of is like, I'm sick of this. I want to leave. And they tell him he can't leave because they're getting older and he has to wait until they die. Literally. And his mom tells him she has burning sensations. I was like, whoa. Then they tell him to start setting up their puppet show area.
Yeah. Set up their show, their little presentation that they do when they travel.
Yep. So as it starts to rain, and as he's setting up in the rain, a boy comes to him and tells him, "Oh, you have such a great job." And he says he doesn't really like his job. The boy asks why he doesn't change it, and he says it's just who I am, and asks him if the boy just came out here to watch them set up. And the boy says, "No, I came out here to listen to the crickets." And Jimmy kind of looks around and is like, "Oh, I haven't listened to the crickets in a while, but you need to go home. You're going to catch a cold." And the boy says, "Well, you'll catch a cold too. Take my umbrella. I don't live far," and runs off. And tells him, "Oh, I can't wait to see the show," and he runs off. And then back in Storybrooke, Henry comes into therapy and says he's going to find proof of the curse in the mines, and shows Archie a flashlight and some candy bars and things in his backpack. Archie says he needs to stop. This is a delusion that has turned into psychosis, and if he doesn't wake up, they have to lock him away. Henry is upset and runs out. Then we go to the hospital. Mary Margaret and David are playing hangman, the little game on the piece of paper. And the hangman puzzle is her name. And she almost hangs on it. And he says, "Oh, I wouldn't let you hang. I would have added toes and a hat and a horse, and you wouldn't have hung on it." She asks if any of his memories are coming back, and tells him, it's a good sign that he's making new memories just fine. And he says maybe he will like these memories better. Catherine comes in with pictures to jog his memory, and she shows him a picture of a dog. And it's like, "It's our dog, Ajax." And he pretends he remembers the dog. And it's like, "Oh, yeah, Ajax. I remember." Later at home, Mary Margaret laments to Emma that Catherine is such a nice person, and if she wasn't, it would make this easier. Emma asks what this is, and Mary Margaret says nothing. And Emma says, "Yeah, nothing's a good idea." Henry shows up devastated and tells her about his therapy session. Emma goes to the office and confronts Archie. And while she's there, Regina calls her because Henry is missing again. She had dropped Henry off at Regina's office, and he ran away. Archie, was like, I know where he is. He's at the mines. And then we go back to the Enchanted Forest. Rumpelstiltskin is spinning cotton into gold. When Jiminy comes in with treasures, he gives him a gold string for payment for the treasures, and says he knows Jiminy wants something else. Jiminy says he wants to be somebody else, but his parents are holding him back. Rumpelstiltskin gives him a small vial of liquid and tells him, sprinkle it on them, spray it on them, pour it in their curds and whey. It doesn't matter how it gets to them. But after the potion has done its work, just leave them where they are and he will come and collect them. Jiminy asks what will happen to them, and Rumpelstiltskin says he doesn't need to worry. They will be in safe hands, and he will be free. Then we go back to Storybrooke. Archie and Emma search around the kind of on the outside around the mines, and Henry is searching the mines inside for proof, and he finds a large piece of glass, and he like pulls it out of a little crook in the wall, and then the walls start to collapse. Archie goes into the mines to save him, and the opening of the mines falls shut. They meet up, and Henry is like, "Oh, you're here. You believe me?" And Archie's like, "We need to go. Like, we're in danger. This isn't playtime. Like, this is serious business. We need to go." Henry gets upset and runs away deeper into the mines. And then we go back to the Enchanted Forest. Jiminy and his parents run a scam on a family that let them stay there, telling them that there's a plague in the next town, but they're immune because they have elf tonic. The family is like, "We do anything for you to give us some," and they trade literally everything this couple owns. Everything. They pack it up. They leave the house, and as they're next to their cart, I guess.
Yeah.
As they're next to their cart, Jiminy splashes the potion on his parents, and nothing happens. And he realizes that his father has switched the bottles, so he gave the potion that Rumpelstiltskin gave to him to the family,
to the young couple,
thinking that it was the elf tonic. He runs back into the house to find the couple has been transformed into puppets. Just then, the young boy who gave him the umbrella shows up home, and Jiminy is devastated at what he's done. We go back to Storybrooke. In the mines, Archie finds Henry and tries to reason with him and get him to understand the severity of their situation. Like, they are trapped underground in these mines. Topside, Emma has gotten help. Emma and Regina kind of get into a little argument, and Emma says the only reason Henry went down there is because Regina made him feel like he had something to prove. Regina says Emma is encouraging him and tells him, "Oh, please lecture me until his oxygen runs out." And then Henry and Archie hear Pongo and head towards his bark. They find an old shaft elevator just as everyone topside decides to try explosives. Henry and Archie get a couple feet off the ground when the explosives go off, sending them crashing back down. Emma goes, looks at the opening, says it didn't open. And then at the hospital, David asks Mary Margaret to escort him on his daily walk. He says he's trying to remember, but it's like he's woken up in a strange land. Mary Margaret asks if anything is coming back and says, "Well, you remembered your dog." And he admits he lied. He didn't want to disappoint Catherine, but none of it feels real. And he says, "Who would name a dog Ajax?" Which I agree. Ajax is a horrible name for a dog.
It's interesting.
Mary Margaret says that it sounds lonely to his situation. And he says the only thing that feels real and right is her. Just then, Catherine comes up to them with cranberry muffins. They used to be David's favorite. Mary Margaret excuses herself, and David calls after her asking if he will see her tomorrow. Meanwhile, Regina is freaking out when Emma notices Pongo in the fire truck barking and causing a stir. She lets Pongo out, and he goes to the top of the mine shaft. And they realize it's a mine shaft, and they open it. Meanwhile, Henry is in the shaft apologizing, saying he just wanted to find proof. Archie apologizes and tells him he doesn't think he's crazy. He just has a very strong mother who has a clear path, and she wants him to follow it. And when he kind of veers off the path, she gets scared, which is natural. But it's also natural for him to want to make his own path, that he didn't mean the things that he said, that he isn't a very good person, that he isn't the man he wants to be. Henry says he thinks he can be a good person. He's Jiminy Cricket. And Archie says, well, Jiminy Cricket is a conscience, and that's not me. Henry says before Jiminy Cricket was a conscience, he was just a guy who took a really long time to find the right thing to do. That he has to listen to the voice inside him and be who he wants to be. Basically telling Archie, like, it's up to you to make the changes in order to be the person you want to be. Nobody's going to do that for you. You have to listen to yourself and go from there. Regina and Emma argue over who's going to scale down and rescue Henry. Regina says, that's my son. And Emma kind of looks at her and is like, well, yeah, but he's my son too. And you've been sitting behind a desk for 10 years and I can do this. Regina finally agrees to let Emma go down. In the mine shaft, Archie asks why it's so important for this fairy tale theory to be true. Henry says he kind of thinks about it for a second. It's like, well, because this can't be all there is. He just wanted to find proof, but he didn't find anything. Archie says that isn't true. He was lost, and Henry found him. Henry gets super excited and is like, oh, you remember? And he's like, no, I don't remember, but I remember the kind of person I want to be. Emma scales down and finds them, gets Henry, and the shaft falls. Archie is only saved by his umbrella looping a hook on Emma's belt. Emma brings them up safely. Regina pulls Henry away, and when Emma goes to check on him, Regina brushes her off. And it's like, you can clear the scene. When Regina goes up to Archie to thank him, he says he's going to treat Henry in his own way. Regina says, well, my relief at his safety hasn't changed anything. Archie says she's going to leave him alone and let him do his work because someday she might find herself in a custody battle. And the way the courts decide who's the best fit is they consult an expert, particularly one that has worked with the child. And so she's going to let him do his work the way his conscience tells him to. And she kind of backs down.
And that's wonderful to see that he is showing some strength and agency, and is finally pushing back.
Yeah.
After being, beat up so badly by Regina. It was a welcome sight to see Archie.
It was.
Prevail over Regina, and Regina being the one who has to back down for once.
Right. And it was a very clear, saying it without saying it. If you mess with me, I'm going to mess you up if you find yourself in a custody battle. We go back to the Enchanted Forest, and Jiminy is wishing on a star, and the Blue Fairy shows up. She says she hears his wish, but she can't bring back the boy's parents. He says he needs to make this right and that he'll trade his life to make it happen. She says what's done is done, but there is another way. The boy will face many challenges growing up, and he's going to need help. He says he can't get away from his parents. They are who he is. The Blue Fairy asks who he would like to be. He wishes silently, and she says she hears him and turns him into a cricket. She tells him to find the boy, and he will live as many years as the boy needs him, and tells him that the boy's name is Geppetto. Back in Storybrooke, Emma and Henry are sitting on the side of the ravine that goes down into the mine. And they're watching Marco and Archie just kind of chit chat and, Emma asks if Marco is Archie's father, which I found interesting because in the first episode, Marco makes it very clear that he doesn't have children.
Right.
He tells Emma, me and my wife tried for many, many years and we couldn't have children. So for some reason, Emma's forgotten that and asks if Marco is Archie's father. And Henry says, no, they're just old friends. And then they hear the crickets, and he points out that the crickets are back and that things are changing. In Mr. Gold's pawn shop, we see the puppets that the couple was changed into on the counter, which is a little creepy detail. And then we see Mary Margaret turning in her resignation letter to the hospital. And then the very last scene of the episode, the crowd is at the mine celebrating Henry and Archie being saved. And Regina walks up to the mine shaft, the top of the mine shaft, and she pulls a piece of glass out of her pocket. And she kind of looks at it, and she drops it into the mine shaft. And it goes way, way, way down. And it lands among the wreckage of Snow White's coffin. So there was proof down there. Henry was right. There was proof down there. He just didn't get to it. So what did you think of that episode?
Oh, I thought it was a wonderful episode. It was a great flashback episode for Archie. showing his origin and how desperate he was to be his own person, his own man. Of course, I found the parents' emotional manipulation appalling.
Yes.
And
you can't leave. I have burning sensations.
Yeah. And
just stay with us until we die.
And they dressed up the emotional manipulation in a happy disguise, right? And it was sweet. It's like, you really don't want to leave us. We'd be lost without you.
Yeah.
Just give us your entire life. It's fine. You'll be okay.
Well, and I found it interesting that he's like easily in his mid to late 30s when you see him the second time. And it's crazy to me that like he stayed that long.
Yeah.
Like as you grow up and you mature and you go into like your 20s, your late 20s, you would think he'd be like, okay, enough of this, I'm breaking off. But he held who he was comparative to his parents with such value that he's like in his late 30s, early 40s. Yeah. And he's like, I can't leave. Like there's something holding me to my parents.
Yeah. And he's given up hope.
Yeah.
He's given up hope, which of course drives him to a certain somebody.
To Rumpelstiltskin, who has his hands in every pocket in every episode of the show. Like he is everywhere. I also found it interesting that he knows that it's wrong. Like he knows that stealing is wrong. And you would think that being raised by thieves and these kind of people, he would kind of fall in line and be like, well, this is just what we do. This is just how it is. But instead he's like, I know this is wrong, but I don't know what I can do to stop it. And I found that interesting because a lot of times your morality comes from your parents. And his morality did come from his parents, but he took it in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And I found that interesting.
And there's a parallel too, because he can't stand up to his parents. We see that he has to go to Rumpelstiltskin to get a solution, and of course that solution backfires horribly. But towards the end of the episode, once Archie is back topside and he approaches Regina and says, hey, I'm going to treat Henry the way I see fit. The threat that Regina gave him was rebuffed, and you see that he's gone full circle. What he couldn't do with his parents, he did finally with Regina.
Right.
And he said, no, I'm going to be my own man.
Right. And do what I feel is right.
And you see that circle, and I was very pleased with that.
Yeah. And that's a big step because you can see how much fear that he has with Regina, because Regina has so much power. And for him to kind of take Henry's advice, and Henry's like, hey, like, you can be the person you want to be, but you have to make that change. And he decides to make that change and say, no, I'm not going to let you boss me around. I'm not going to let you manipulate me. I'm not going to let you, try to take Henry from me and make me lose my business and all of these things. Like, I'm going to do what I feel is right, whether you like it or not. And he uses his leverage to do that.
Yeah.
He's like, you might be powerful, but I'm powerful in a different way. I can mess you up in a whole different way.
Yeah. Yeah. It made me smile.
It did.
Yeah.
And I love Archie. I think he's just such a sweet man.
Yeah. He's a solid character.
He is.
Really solid character. I enjoyed seeing his flashback episode. And what's interesting to me is, he wishes to be free, and the blue fairy hears his wish, and he's turned into a cricket. And instead of Jiminy Cricket being the conscience for Pinocchio, he's the conscience for Geppetto.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see how they kind of tweaked it a little bit, because later on you're going to see that, there's going to be more of the story, with Geppetto, and we'll see that in the future. But it was a nice little tweak, for those of us who are familiar with the story of Geppetto and Pinocchio. It was a nice change.
Right, and I love that he turned into a cricket, because that's kind of something that him and the boy Geppetto bonded over, was listening to the crickets.
Yeah.
So he like automatically knew that if he was a cricket, Geppetto would be more drawn to him than if he just showed up as himself. Obviously Geppetto knows that he did this to his parents. So he's like, I'm gonna go in a form that is safe to him.
Yeah. And that's awesome. That just shows you the depths of his character, and that he's still trying to be honorable to the end, even if it cost him his life. So it was wonderful to see. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So what do we think about the back and forth with
Regina and Emma?
Yeah.
It's exhausting. It's just exhausting. But I like that Emma, kind of stood up to her and was like, I understand that he's your son, but he's my son too. Like, I have this connection to him just like you do. And I like that Regina kind of backed down and was like, you're right. You have more experience in scaling down a mine shaft than I do. Go ahead and get him. I don't like how Regina pulled Henry away. And then when Emma went to check on him, she kind of brushed like, oh, we're fine. You just go over that way.
Yeah.
I don't like that. But it shows it's on point for Regina's character.
Yeah. Full of insecurities and jealous of this
the relationship.
Yeah, seemingly instant bond between Emma and Henry.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's not at peace with it.
No.
And she's trying to segregate Henry as much as she can.
Mm-hmm.
But as you've seen, Henry has a way of just
floating back
and getting what he wants, and he'll go. He's so driven that he's going to not only be with his mother, but he truly believes that this world, this town, it just isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one thing too, that you're starting to see people come around,
mm-hmm.
And that's kind of interesting too, because you're hoping for that spark, and who's going to be next? We already know Rumpelstiltskin
is awake
and knows.
But who's going to be the next one to wake up?
Next? And
also, I find it kind of interesting, and I think this reconfirms Henry's distrust in his mother. He is convinced. There's no getting him out of the fact that this town is cursed and everyone's a fairy tale character and his mom is the evil queen. There's no taking that out of his mind. And everyone in town kind of just lets him believe it. They don't buy into it, but they allow him to buy into it. And his mother is the only one in town who's like, absolutely not, this is a delusion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His therapist is very understanding. His teacher is very understanding. His mother is very understanding. Seemingly other people are understanding and kind of just like, yeah, it's a little weird, but he's a kid. Like, just let him kind of do his thing. And his mother's Regina's the only one that's really pushing back on it. And I think that reconfirms that it's a curse.
Yes.
That everyone doesn't have an issue with him believing this except for the person that cast the curse.
Yeah. And you can see the fear in Regina's eyes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're getting dangerously close, of course, in her mind, of finding out about all this.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, there's a vulnerability that Regina showed this episode. You know, first, that motherly love for Henry and the fact that Henry was in dire straits.
Right.
But you also have the vulnerability of this curse world being revealed.
Right.
And so now Regina is even more paranoid about keeping that secret. And of course, Henry is this spark. So again, trying to keep him away from Emma has been, you know, her modus since the beginning of the show. But there's a lot more urgency now with how things have progressed.
I think for her, every step closer that they get is a step too far.
Yeah.
She's like, I'll let it go this far. And then it goes this far. And she's like, ooh, okay, I'll let it go this far. And then it gets that far. And she's like, ooh. Like, it's getting, things are stacking up. And she doesn't like how much sense it's making to the other people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, how do you feel about Mary Margaret, David, Catherine, everything?
It's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a mess. And I think if David and Henry got together, because Henry, like if Henry got with David and explained his kind of theory, I think it would make more sense to David than anybody else.
Oh, absolutely.
Because David already feels it.
Yeah, he already
doesn't
feels
know
it.
what he feels, but he feels that something is wrong. And the only thing that feels right is Mary Margaret.
Yep. And Mary Margaret, poor Mary Margaret.
Yeah.
You know, she has, you know, fallen for David, and she knows it. Mm-hmm. And she's doing her best
To do the right thing.
Mm-hmm. You know.
To the point that she gives up her volunteer position to get space from him. And
you know, you really feel for her.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you have an amnesiac walking around who doesn't know who he is, and you know, being told that the only thing that's right in my mind
is wrong.
Is wrong, and you know, and the only thing that's right is her. I mean, how would you feel? I mean, what a position to be in, you know. And you know, Mary Margaret, you know, wants, like we said before, wants love, wants true love. She wants true love and companionship.
Yeah, she wants it all. She wants the marriage, she wants the kids, she wants the happy life. And I think she sees that potential with David, but the fact that he's married really puts her in this moral between a rock and a hard place. Like, I really feel like this could be something, but he's married. And I don't want to be that person.
Exactly. And of course, every time there could be a revelation, Catherine
shows up. Yeah. Every time they take a step closer, Catherine shows up and pulls them apart.
So awkward. And then, of course, you know, and you're just like, damn it.
Right.
Catherine.
Right.
So what? So what? Just go.
Just go away. Take your cranberry muffins and go home.
Oh, but, you know, of course, she, you know, looking at it from her perspective, you know.
She's got her husband back.
She got her husband back. And, you know, she's doing whatever she can to, you know.
Endear herself
to her again. Exactly. making muffins. Hey, these used to be your favorite.
Right.
And
bringing pictures of dogs named Ajax.
Yeah, anything.
That's such a stupid name.
But that name has a lot of history.
Does it?
Yeah.
Is it like a Buddy or typical dog names?
Well,
is it one of those, or is it like
no?
Because I've never heard of a dog named Ajax.
It's pronounced Ajax.
Oh,
and it's
she didn't even pronounce the dog's name right.
No. We say Ajax, but there's a history for that word. I don't know if it's a person or not, but we're going to check that. And hey, anyone watching, if you guys know the origin of Ajax, let us know.
Or Ajax.
Let us know. But
if you know a dog named Ajax, let us know. I don't think I've ever even heard of that name before.
Yeah, I have. And
if I have, it had to have been like a long, long, long time ago, because that's such a stupid name.
Oh.
It gets on my nerves. Why would they not name the dog Buddy or Toby or?
Why can't it be unique?
Ajax doesn't feel like a unique name.
It's very unique.
But it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it. To me, it doesn't feel like it.
Well, I say name the dog what you want to name the dog.
I feel like Catherine named the dog. I feel like Catherine picked out the name.
Well.
Okay. So we're going to move on to episode 6.
Yep.
This one is based around the backstory of David. And it gets a little tricky because his name was James, but it wasn't James. His twin brother's name was James. And then he took over his twin brother James's life and started going by James. But his name was always originally David.
Yes.
So it gets a little bit messy.
Yeah.
But I'm going to try to make it as succinct and understable as possible.
It's an important episode.
It's a very important
episode. So, episode 6 is called The Shepherd. It premiered December 4th, 2011 with 9.66 million viewers. The episode was written by Andrew Chambliss and Ian Goldberg and directed by Victor Nelly.
Okay. So we see David and Catherine. He gets released from the hospital and he arrives at home. And they're standing outside their house, and Catherine is kind of just remembering and telling him about a little bit of the history, and tells him, there used to be a windmill out front that he hated. He said he would never buy a grandma house, that he hated this house at first. And she's like, do you remember what changed your mind? And he kind of looks around and he's like, well, the windmill's gone. And they go inside where there's a welcome party waiting. And he's going through, and Catherine's reintroducing him to all of his friends. Dr. Whale is there, and Dr. Whale says, hey, I know this is a lot right now, but it's good for you. The smallest thing can trigger your memory. Henry and Emma are kind of off in the corner, and Henry is telling Emma that there's a reason that he doesn't remember. It's because the curse isn't working on him yet. Emma says, well, he has amnesia, and tries to like explain what amnesia is to a 10-year-old. And Henry says that the amnesia is stopping his cursed memories from taking over. David comes up to them and says, hey, you guys are the only ones I know here. And asks if Emma knows if Mary Margaret's coming. And Emma says, she couldn't make it. So we see Catherine in the kitchen with Regina, and Catherine's just like fussing over the food, and you can tell she's really anxious and doesn't know how to handle the situation.
Yeah.
Which I think is natural. Like,
sure.
if my husband came home and didn't know who he was and didn't know his house and didn't know his friends, I'd be like, where do I go from here? Like,
right.
Do I pretend like everything's fine? Do I try to push him to talk to people, or have people like bring up memories, or like what do I do? Regina tells Catherine that the food is fine. Go be with your husband. Catherine tells her, it's like I have my husband back, but I don't have him back, which makes sense.
Right.
Obviously, because he's not the same person that he was. He doesn't remember anything. Regina says, and Catherine says, well, you wouldn't understand what I'm going through. Regina says, well, I do understand because I've lost a love too, but the way I lost my love, my love can't come back. And Catherine thanks her for being such a good friend and says, well, I'm not used to having a friend. And Regina says, oh, neither am I. And Catherine's like, well, like it or not, you've got one now. Like we're friends now.
And what's interesting about that is that, Regina kind of seemed to be human.
Yeah.
She gave Catherine some advice and, tried to encourage her. And, that Regina has ulterior motives, but this came off as genuine.
Right. Very
it came
vulnerable.
off as, and we've been seeing this vulnerability in Regina, and again, we see it with her trying to comfort and encourage Catherine.
Yeah. So Catherine goes into the other room to talk to David. David has left the party in search of Mary Margaret.
Wow. Wow. You abandoned your own party.
Your own welcome home party.
All right then.
So he finds her putting up a birdhouse, and he says he heard that she resigned from the hospital and asks if it's because of him. If it's because of him telling her how he feels. And asks her to tell him it isn't one-sided. And then you see Mary Margaret really battle with her morality. She said, you're married, it should be no-sided. Whether I have a side in it or not, it shouldn't be that way.
Right. Absolutely. You can see it. And she's trying to stand with conviction, but
right.
You can just see her wavering.
Yeah. You can see her conviction just breaking off piece by piece. He tells her, it doesn't matter that I'm married because whoever married Catherine isn't him. That he knows that she feels it too, that she feels this connection, that she feels this pull. She says, well, I think you think that we have this connection because, and maybe it's because I saved you. Maybe that's what's making you feel like you're connected to me more than you're connected to your wife. Like when you woke up, I was the first person you saw. Mm-hmm. They should just leave it at that. They shouldn't kind of think deeper into it. They should just leave it at that. Okay. This is where it's going to get a little tricky. In the Enchanted Forest, David's twin brother, James, is fighting off a brute. He wins, and King Midas asks if he's worthy of slaying his dragon. King Midas's kingdom is being plagued by a dragon right now, and he's put a bunch of people up against it, a bunch of soldiers up against it, and everyone dies. So he's looking for a dragon slayer. King George, which is James's adoptive father, but I don't believe James knows that King George adopted him. I think that's like a secret.
Yeah, I think so too.
But King George, his father, says, well, of course my son is worthy and that you need your dragon dead and his kingdom needs gold. And he's sure they can work something out. Midas's attendant goes to take off Midas's glove, which if you know anything about the legend of Midas, you know that he can turn things into gold. The attendant goes to take off his glove and he's kind of a little like not careful about it. And Midas looks at him and is like, be careful. Remember what happened to Frederick. And the attendant takes off the glove and Midas turns James's sword into gold as a down payment. Midas and George walk away to sort out the details of this. I'm going to slay the dragon and you're going to give me a bunch of gold. The soldiers are congratulating James for killing the brute. And James is like, hey, calm down. This was just a test. Like, we have such bigger things to worry about. And as he's telling his soldiers to chill out and not jump to, congratulating him quite yet, the brute gets up and stabs James through the chest with, like, the biggest spear. Like, it puts a hole in his chest, which obviously kills him. And then we see King George saying goodbye to James. The head soldier comes in and says, hey, there's no time to grieve. If Midas finds out that James is dead, they won't get any gold. And King George's kingdom they're broke. They need the gold. George says, you're right. I've got help coming. He should be here soon. Right as he says that, Rumpelstiltskin shows up because, of course, the help is Rumpelstiltskin. And he tells the soldiers to give them privacy. And Rumpelstiltskin comes in and scolds him for being so careless with his gifts. George says, my son wasn't a gift. That was my son. And Rumpelstiltskin points out that he was the son that George gave him. George said they made a deal. Rumpelstiltskin didn't do him any favors. Rumpelstiltskin insists that it was a favor because he and the queen couldn't have an heir. And now that the queen is gone, he's sure making another heir is out of the question. George asks for another deal and for Rumpelstiltskin to bring James back. Rumpelstiltskin, and this is one of my favorite parts of the show. Rumpelstiltskin says, oh, you can't bring him back. He's dead. And just the way he says it is so funny. He says, I can help you. I can't bring him back, but I can help you. There's a wand from a fairy that patrons your family that I want. So I need to know the whereabouts of this fairy. George agrees and asks what they're going to do. And Rumpelstiltskin informs him that even though James is dead and resurrection is out of the question, James has a twin brother, which George did not know about. And then we see in Storybrooke, we see Mary Margaret super aggressively scrubbing dishes. Like she's definitely like rage cleaning. Emma walks in and she says she saw David sulking away when she pulled up. Mary Margaret says he made a pretty compelling case. And Emma's like, well, compelling case or not, he's still married. Mary Margaret asks what she's supposed to do. Because as much as she's trying to push David away, he just keeps coming. Emma says, stop cleaning and have a drink with me. And as Emma pours the drink, she tells Mary Margaret, I don't know much about relationships other than having a few that's failed. But generally speaking, if something that you want to do feels wrong, it is. So she has to stay strong, and he needs to figure his life out. David is in his living room, and he's looking through the pictures that Catherine had brought to the hospital. And he's looking through, pictures of them. He has a buzz cut that's really ugly in the pictures. And then she kind of looks at him, and she's like, so, I was going to go to bed. And he looks at her, and he's like, go to bed, or
go to bed.
Yeah. And she's like, whatever you want. And he's like, well, can we just sit and talk for a little while longer? She kisses him. And he pulls away saying, this isn't right. So that tells you that even though she's ready to restart the intimate part of their marriage, he has strong conviction that if it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to do it. I'm not just going to do something because it's an obligation in marriage. If it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to do it. Then you see David, not James. You see David in the Enchanted Forest, and he's herding sheep when his mother Ruth, who I absolutely adore. I think the actress that played Ruth is just amazing. She plays it so well. I love her. She comes home from the market. And she tells him that the grain merchant has a daughter who's ready for marriage and that the dowry would save the farm. They are constantly fighting to save the farm and keep ahead of things. He refuses, saying that he's only going to marry for love. She asks when he's going to learn that he can't have everything. And of course, Rumpelstiltskin pops up.
Of course.
And says, well, perhaps he can. And then we see Ruth telling David he had a twin brother who she and his father sold to Rumpelstiltskin. And tells him, your father regretted it as soon as he was gone. And tells him, he took that regret up to his grave. Like he never forgave himself for that decision. David tells her to wait in the house and he will deal with Rumpelstiltskin.
What? Wow. To be told that?
Yeah. And he's got to be 25, 26.
Yeah, 20s.
Thinking you're an only child and then being like, not only did you have a brother, you had a twin brother.
Yeah.
Who we sold.
Yeah. Wow. And on the funny side of this, back in Storybrooke when David was looking at pictures with Catherine and he said that longer hair is hard to manage. When we see David back at the farm, he just has this
long shaggy
mop looking do on top of his head.
Very unkempt.
Oh, it is very funny. So
very funny.
It is very funny.
Rumpelstiltskin tells David that the king needs a prince to slay a dragon. And that if he plays the part, the soldiers will do everything. He just has to show up and play the part. The prince will bless them with riches. It'll save the farm, and he will come home the conquering hero. David says, well, I'm not a dragon slayer. That's not my field. And Rumpelstiltskin says, well, your brother was. And maybe this newfound kinship would be your salvation. And David kind of looks off, and he's like, I don't have a choice, do I? And Rumpelstiltskin says, of course you have a choice. Everyone has a choice. Just make sure that you make the right one.
Yikes.
Yeah. Basically telling him he doesn't have a choice. So then we see Mary Margaret in Storybrooke. She's sitting in the diner reading the paper about David coming home. The line of the paper is John Doe comes home. Dr. Whale approaches her, which, remember, she had that horribly failed date with Dr. Whale.
Yep.
And he tells her he hopes that her resigning from the hospital wasn't because of him. And she kind of looks at him and was like, why would it be because of you? He's like, well, because of our date and, I didn't call you afterwards and I know it wasn't classy. And she's like, yeah, no, it had nothing to do with you. And he's like, well, if you can get over what I did, you know where to find me. Which I think is basically telling her he's still interested.
Yeah.
But he was not interested at all when they were on the date.
Right.
Like, he was not giving her a lick of attention.
No. Too busy staring at Ruby.
Yeah. And ignoring everything that came out of Mary Margaret's mouth.
Yeah.
And I think Mary Margaret was actually being pretty vulnerable.
Sure.
In the moment.
Yeah.
And really trying to get to know him on another level, not just you're a doctor and I'm a volunteer.
Right.
So Dr. Whale leaves, and as he's walking out the door, Regina walks in. And she sits across from Mary Margaret and tells Mary Margaret, David isn't yours. He's taken. Find someone else. And Mary Margaret's like, I didn't do anything. I haven't done anything. And Regina drops the bombshell that David has left Catherine. And as soon as she says it, she realizes that Mary Margaret had no idea. She tells Mary Margaret, well, I'm sure you'll know soon enough. Stay away from him. He doesn't know who he is. He's very vulnerable right now. And you're you're this close to ruining multiple lives. So before you do something that can't be undone, you need to let him remember who he is. Then we jump back to the Enchanted Forest. David is told by the head soldier, the one that told Midas that they didn't have time to mourn, that he will stay out of the cave and do nothing before they head to the cave where the dragon resides. He's like, you're going to stay there. You're going to do nothing. You're going to let us handle it. Like, if you die, we're not going to get gold. And that's what the kingdom needs. So they head to the dragon's cave. And David and two soldiers wait a little ways back from the entrance while the other three soldiers go in. Because this fearsome dragon that nobody can kill, they sent 6 people for. Mm-hmm. The three that went in to the cave are immediately toasted.
Yeah. In seconds. The head soldier crawls out of the cave with his legs on fire. David pulls him to safety while the other two dragons waiting for him are charred. The dragon immediately goes after them. David tricks the dragon into following him in between a small opening between rocks, between two like big boulders. And when the dragon gets stuck, David slays him. And then we're back in Storybrooke. David shows up to the school and asks Mary Margaret to meet him at the toll bridge at 8 p.m. She's very resistant. She's like, you cannot be here. We cannot be talking. You need to go. Like, we can't do this. He says, hey, if you choose us, come to the toll bridge tonight. And if you don't come, I'll know and I won't bother you again. But if she chooses them, she knows where he'll be. At the sheriff's station, Graham brings Emma some donuts. He brings her a bear claw, and which looks so good. Yeah, it did look really good.
It looks so good.
And I used to love bear claws when I was a kid. I'm showing my age, but I don't know if anybody remembers the Hostess store. They had an outlet store where they sold all of their overflow for really cheap. My mom would go and
you bargain shopped as a kid?
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah. And
we are both bargain hunters.
And I remember I could get bear claws for 50 cents.
The big ones?
Yeah, they were a good size.
Oh, everything was cheaper back then.
They weren't like the bakery size bear claws.
Like the one she had that was bigger than her hand?
Huge, yeah. But they were about that big, you guys.
Yeah.
And, it brought back memories when she picked it up to eat it. Because she just looked gleeful as she picked it up.
She was like, you're lucky you brought a bear claw.
Yeah. And I immediately wanted a bear claw.
And I'm not like a cake or donut or sweets person. I would have at least tried it.
Yeah. Oh, I love bear claws.
I don't even care if I'm vegan, and I don't even care if there was animal products in it. I would have taken a taste and dealt with being sick. So he brings her a bear claw to bribe her to work tonight. Because he had told her there were going to be no night shifts. But he's like, hey, I need to volunteer at the animal shelter. The supervisor is sick and someone needs to be there to feed the dogs. So you're lucky you brought me a bear claw. I'll do it. Mary Margaret comes in and she says she has to talk to Emma. And Sheriff Graham is like, I'll go patrol my office. So it's cute. She tells Emma that David has left his wife and that she's trying to be strong, but he just keeps coming and she doesn't know what to do. Emma says, well, I would go. Like, it's one thing to say you're going to leave your wife and to say that you want somebody and that you want this life. And it's a completely different story to leave and make that action and make that step. So we go back to the Enchanted Forest. Midas is extremely pleased with David's performance. And he doesn't know that James is David. He still thinks that James never died. Yeah. It's this big ruse that King George and David and Rumpelstiltskin have going on. So he says that James has his utmost respect. George, he's so annoying. He's like, well, we treasure your respect like we respect your treasure. And he's all about money. And Midas is like, yes. You know, gold they shall have. But he didn't get where he is by thinking small. He wants James to marry his daughter Abigail and unite the kingdoms. David tries to very respectfully decline. And George is like, oh, my son is so modest, and kind of brings him in for a hug. And as he's hugging him, he's like, if you say anything but yes, I'm going to unalive you and unalive your mom and burn your farm to the ground.
He's just an evil person.
He is. He's horrible. You don't hear the answer. It immediately cuts to David in Storybrooke, walking around town, kind of lost. He's got a map. And Regina sees him and walks up to him and says, hey, where are you headed? And he says the toll bridge. And she's like, oh, are you trying to jog your memory? And he stupidly, it's like, well, no, I'm meeting someone there, which is none of Regina's business
At all.
I would have just said, yeah, I'm trying to jog my memory. But he tells her, no, I'm meeting someone there. And she's like, oh, I see you've made your choice. I guess there's nothing I can do to change your mind. And he's like, I can't change the way I feel. She gives him incorrect directions towards Mr. Gold's pawn shop. He realizes that she's led him astray. And he goes into the pawn shop, and Mr. Gold comes out while he's looking at the mobile that was hung above Emma's crib as when Snow was pregnant with her. Which is, again, one of those things I said most things ended up in Mr. Gold's pawn shop, even if they didn't belong to him.
Yeah.
The mobile, you see the dwarves drinking steins in there. So he's looking at this mobile and kind of entranced by it. And Mr. Gold, it's funny, Mr. Gold just says, charming. And David's like, excuse me? He's like, oh, the mobile, it's very charming. But obviously everyone called him charming in the Enchanted Forest. So it's a little throwback to that. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, it is. It's beautiful. And Mr. Gold asks if he would like him to get it down. David says, well, no, I'm actually looking for the toll bridge, and the mayor gave me directions, and it kind of led me in the wrong direction. And Mr. Gold is like, oh, and David's like, you would think that the mayor would know our own town. And Mr. Gold's like, you would, but here are the correct directions. David thanks him and turns around. And as he's walking out of the pawn shop, he sees the windmill that used to be in his front yard. And he kind of spins it, and it brings back all of his memories of his life with Catherine. So it curses him, or takes away his amnesia so the curse can take over. Something happens, and he suddenly remembers the marriage and all the feelings he had for her and everything. So we go back to the Enchanted Forest. David shows up at the farm where Ruth says she was so worried, but the king has already sent riches their way. And she's super excited. She's like, you got to come in and see the house. You got to, I'll make you dinner. The king's going to take care of us. He already has started. And David tells her, I'm going to be married to Midas's daughter. Ruth says, no, he has the right to marry for love. And that every day he's been away has shown her how wrong she was to try to push him into marrying for prosperity. He says, because of the ruse, Midas can never know who he really is. So he has no choice. And that he didn't come for advice. He came to say goodbye. Ruth tells him to run away. He says, I can't run away. They will kill you. And with so much motherly love, she looks at him and says, I lose you either way. And it shows that she would rather die than have him live unhappily.
That's the mother's love for you.
Yeah. So she takes her ring off. The ring that Snow White has. The ring that David was going to give to Abigail that ended up with Mary Margaret in the Enchanted Forest. Which, side note, my engagement ring is actually a replica of that ring. That's how much I love this show. My husband got me a replica of the ring as an engagement ring. And I love it so much. And I will never take it off. She takes the ring off her finger. And she gives it to him. And she tells him that true love follows the ring wherever it goes. And she says, I had true love with your father. I had it as your mother. Take this. And even if I never see you again, I know you'll find love and be happy. Then we go back to Storybrooke. David shows up at the toll bridge and Mary Margaret is there waiting for him. And she's like, he was like, oh, you came. And she was like, you sound surprised and a little disappointed. And he says, I remember everything. I know that I loved Catherine, and I think that I need to honor those feelings, even though that's not the way I feel now. He has feelings for Mary Margaret, but the right thing to do is to try to work this out with Catherine and see where this goes. Mary Margaret tells him the right thing to do was not to lead her on, but it's okay. It was just not meant to be. Then you see Emma on patrol going through Storybrooke, and she drives around the corner by Regina's house and sees someone exiting the windows. She stops, and when the person comes out of the hedge, she hits him and then realizes it's Graham. He says plans changed and Regina needed him. She says she needed you to sleep with her. And he's like, no, it wasn't like that. And she asks him why he was sneaking out the windows. And he says Regina didn't want Henry to know. She is disgusted and asks if he really does this with Henry in the house. And he explains that Henry is sleeping and doesn't know. She says, well, I wish I was Henry right now. And says it's disgusting. That he can finish her shift and she's done working nights. Then you see David ringing the doorbell at him and Catherine's house. Catherine opens the door and he says, you were right. I always hated that windmill. And she asks how much he remembers. And he says enough to know what was going on. Like when I left, I wasn't leaving for good. I just needed some time. And then I had my accident and I got much more time than I expected. That he says, I know we have work to do, but he wants to see how it goes. And she says she would like that. And then you see George, Midas, Abigail, and David as James standing there and they're chit-chatting. And Midas tells Abigail and James to head off to King Midas's palace. That's where they're going to live. George tells David to smile, that he's on his road to true love. And Abigail and him head off towards Midas's palace on the scenic route, which is where he meets Snow White. So in a way, like he was on his way on the road to true love.
Yeah.
So
the king was right.
Mm-hmm. Now this is where it gets a little spicy. Mary Margaret's sitting alone in Granny's diner. After she met up with David, she goes to Granny's diner. When Dr. Whale approaches and she says, I don't want to talk. And he's like, well, sometimes it's easier to talk to someone when you don't give a crap what they think. And she's like, have you ever walked into a situation where you know exactly what's going to happen and you go into it anyway? And when what you fear happens, you kick yourself because you should have known better. But that's just who you are. It's like you're punishing yourself. And Dr. Whale says, no, no idea how that is. And Mary Margaret asks him how. And he says by doing the unexpected thing. And he asks if he can buy her a drink. She looks at him and says, you can buy me too. And that's where the episode ends. And they have a night.
Presumably.
So, can we talk about how insane it is to give up your life, change your name, and live as a completely different person that you've never met? And no one addresses this.
Yeah. Yeah. And
everyone acts like this is just normal.
Yeah. And, I wonder what the circumstances were when David's parents decided to make a deal.
We will see that later.
Yeah, with Rumpelstiltskin. And Rumpelstiltskin just has his hands in everything.
Yeah.
Everything. There's always a deal to be made. But you see in this flashback episode just how much David had to sacrifice.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally had the revelation of knowing that he had a twin brother that was sold off, and he's dead.
Yeah.
So you get the revelation that you have a twin brother, then you get the revelation that he's dead.
And that you have to take over his life.
You have to take over. And you have to slay a dragon. Or the king is going to unalive you, unalive his mother, burn down the farm, everything.
And then you have to marry someone.
And now, because you were successful.
Who is a brat.
You were successful in slaying the dragon, and you get betrothed to a woman who does not want to be betrothed to you.
Yeah, no, it's obvious she has no interest in James.
And of course,
when Midas says, I want to marry you to my daughter, she's like, he slayed the dragon? And Midas says yes. And she looks at him and she's like, I guess he'll do. Like what the? I guess he'll do.
Yeah.
That's a warm welcome to the family.
Right. You know, it was quite a flashback, for David. And you obviously see in the Enchanted Forest, Catherine, as Abigail, did not want David.
Yep. And you find out why she was so not interested later.
Yeah. So you also make the realization that, yeah, he's right. It doesn't feel right because it isn't.
Right.
So what does that windmill do?
Yeah. He just spins it and it brings everything back to him. But they're all cursed memories.
Yeah.
So after almost 6 years of watching me rage clean, how was it watching Mary Margaret rage clean?
Yeah, I brought back some memories.
She's scrubbing super aggressive.
I mean, it's Lady Macbeth level.
Yeah.
For those
Yeah.
Our damn spot, it was that level. And you can just see the frustration. But again, just the heartbreak. Because when she, went back to Granny's, you can just see these tears just falling.
Yeah.
She's silent. She's stunned.
And she's blaming herself. Because in her mind, morally, I should have never went here.
Yeah.
No matter how I feel, I should have never put myself in this situation. It blew up in my face.
So I deserve it. I deserve how I'm feeling. I deserve the pain I'm in. I deserve it.
Yep.
So seeing her in Granny's, and then the disappointment I felt in her, entertaining Dr. Whale.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You talk about I was pissed.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
don't go there.
Don't do it.
Please don't go there.
Don't go with this.
Like, he's already proven he doesn't respect her at all. Like, he's just looking for a hookup. Like, this isn't going any farther for him.
Yeah. Oh. Poor Mary Margaret.
Well, and he really uses, he walks up to her and he can tell, she's crying. You can tell she's in a vulnerable state.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can use this to my advantage. Yeah. I won't be alone tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. She's
so does he care what she's going through, or does he just want to use it to his advantage?
Exactly. And of course, Mary Margaret, just turns. You can just see she had the expression of effort.
Yep. Just
I don't even care. You know what?
I'm doing something reckless tonight because my heart hurts.
Yeah, I'm going to indulge. No, don't buy me a drink. Buy me 2.
Maybe that's because she's like, I need 2 drinks to do this.
Yeah. So,
sometimes 1 drink just doesn't do.
Just doesn't do. Yeah. I can't soothe my feelings with just 1.
How do you think Emma feels now that she knows that Graham and Regina are sleeping together?
Oh man, what a revelation.
She looks so
was.
disgusted.
Oh yeah, she was completely disgusted. First, she called Graham a lie, obviously.
Right.
And, she was doing her job. She was on patrol. She saw somebody jumping from a window, looked suspicious,
Finds her boss. Coming out of the house of someone she hates.
Yep.
Not only her boss, but her boss that there's significant sexual tension. At this point, there's significant sexual tension with him.
Right.
So it's like, oh, he likes me, but he's sleeping with my arch enemy.
Yeah. And the disgust just radiated from her. I mean, you could feel it leap into your lap.
And to the point that she's asking stupid questions. She's like, oh, you do this with Henry in the house? Where do you think Henry is? Like, it's the middle of the night. Where do you think Henry is? That and adults be doing what they be doing.
Yeah, that's true. But remember the last time, or was it the last time, when they hooked up, was it a hotel?
It was a hotel.
So...
But that's also while Henry's awake.
Right. But Emma has a point. It's like,
I don't think Emma has a point.
If you gonna,
I think if she took a step back and connected the dots, she would have realized that Henry was at home and wouldn't have to ask.
Well, I'll give you that.
It is dark. It is pitch black. When she's like, you do this with Henry in the house? No, he's having a sleepover. He's having a sleepover, so we're having a sleepover.
I think Emma just had a moment, the disbelief. And, she kind of looked up to Graham, hey, I'm your deputy now. This is okay. I'm feeling good. But, I think first she was lied to.
Yeah.
And then
there were no dogs that needed to be fed.
Yeah. And
well, we don't know that. Maybe he fed the dogs and then went over there. Because feeding the dogs takes 5 minutes. You have to have someone cover your entire shift to go feed some dogs.
Yeah. No. It just falls apart. It just falls apart.
Yeah.
And you know how Emma is. Her superpower, she can detect when people are lying or hiding something. And this is all falling apart. It's all falling apart. And the question is now is, with this revelation, is she going to stay, as a deputy? Is she going to, quit?
Move out of town?
What is she going to do? Because when I tell you the disgust was palpable,
yeah,
you could feel it. Mm-hmm. You certainly could feel it.
Yeah.
And Graham doesn't seem to particularly like Regina.
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
So why? And there's the intrigue. You don't seem to like this woman, yet you're
sleeping with her.
You're sleeping with her. And
what are you doing?
And this is Regina we're talking about. Does she have something on him? Is he doing this willingly? They don't act like a couple.
Yeah.
So what's going on? I guess we'll find out.
I already know. So, but we will find out. It does come up, and it's not pretty at all. It's a little bit icky.
Well,
so
we'll hopefully be seeing it soon.
I think it's within the next few episodes. It's this season.
Okay.
It's definitely this season.
Okay.
I think it's within the next couple episodes. Like maybe the next episode.
Oh, that too.
So yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty soon. So we will end there. Thank you for spending time with us. Next week we will be watching Once Upon a Time, season 1, episodes 7 and 8.
Talk to you then. Thank you for watching another episode of Banter and Binges.